are so many moving parts to this story. We're going to try to break them down for you tonight with bringing in an expert from the Naval War College in Newport to discuss the events going on in the Middle East. Dr. Shahin Berenji, he's an assistant professor. Dr. Berenji, thank you so much for being here.
Great being here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. There's an early ceasefire deal that seems to have kind of veered off course a bit, but now it's allegedly back on. Can we trust that this one will hold?
Yeah, so first off, the views I'm about to express are my own, not those of the Naval War College, U.S. Navy, and U.S. Department of Defense. I think regarding the ceasefire, there's two parts to it. One, it's very fragile and delicate, as we've seen. Both parties immediately traded accusations that the other side was violating the terms of the ceasefire. So ceasefires and truces are just overall very difficult to enforce. And who's going to monitor the terms of the ceasefire? I think that's the other question. So overall ceasefires are just very difficult to enforce and very difficult to keep on track. The second part is this going to be something temporary or permanent? President Trump has said he hopes this will be permanent, but the problem with the permanence of this is that we don't know if Israel's preventive strikes fully and completely destroyed Iran's nuclear program. And if Iran doesn't agree to give up its nuclear program and its nuclear enrichment, and if the nuclear program is not fully and completely destroyed, which we won't have a full accounting for until a complete battlefield damage assessment report is done in the days, weeks, and months ahead, the question then becomes, might Israel have to do something like this in the future? And at what point does it have to do that? So I think there's a question really, is this permanent, or is this really something that's short-lived and temporary?
Okay, so leaving a lot of questions as to how much we can kind of trust this term ceasefire and whether it really is something that you can assume that you can go forward with it. Now, we do know President Trump this morning had some pretty harsh words or salty language for both sides. We have a clip that we want to show you. Not sure if you've seen this, but we'd like to get your reaction. Take a second.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
Not something we typically hear from a president, especially regarding an ongoing foreign policy situation. Clearly signs of frustration here, but what does that remark kind of tell you about where negotiations are right now?
Well, I think definitely from what we saw this morning is that President Trump and members of his administration want the ceasefire to be carried out. They want there to be a stop in the fighting. They don't want to see this violence escalate out of control, spiral into a greater regional war. And I think that much is evident. And I also think what's evident is that President Trump and members of his administration are pursuing very limited objectives here. They wanted to, they struck Iran's nuclear program on Saturday with the intent to destroy it. But they're not pushing for regime change, regime collapse, or anything like that. So I think that's the other thing my other interpretation here is that President Trump definitely wants a ceasefire, and he wants a ceasefire to stop the fighting, to prevent it from moving forward, and that his objectives here are limited rather than unlimited.
I think that's something we're going to have to follow to see whether or not that comes to fruition. Dr. Berenji, thank you so much for joining us and providing your insight on this.
Great being with you. Thank you.
And our coverage of the conflict continues live throughout our broadcast this evening. And for any of our past coverage, you can head to our website. That's turnto10.com.